And good evening, good Friday evening. This is the Dave and Chuck show. Our Friday night pregame special is not a pregame special. There is no game tonight, Chucky. Good, good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, very well. Open dates. Now we
Open
get
date.
there's going to be open dates everywhere.
Yeah, they're open dates. Uh, Conference starts tonight. Big, big deal. Big games. Going to learn about some of the other teams. Preseason's over, basically. You know, you and I call it preseason, and most of the teams came out in pretty good shape this year.
Yep, yep. Oh, and um, out of the non-conference schedule as we're looking at it, the one surprise, obviously, we thought West Henderson was going to be a much better football team, and that they're 2-2, and Franklin, to no one's surprise, 3-0, and both our teams in Haywood County are 3-1. So it seems like they're kind of on, a collision course to the big game. And there's really no surprises other than one team that you said earlier in the year when you said, Chuck, don't sleep on East Henderson. They're
No,
three. So I give you
yeah.
kudos.
Hold on. I have screwed up my thing here. I don't know what this means. Okay, sorry. This iPad's sometimes smarter than I am. It said it went into private mode. Well, hell, I don't even know how to do public mode, much less private mode.
Right.
But anyway, the Mountaineers 3-1, really efficient on both sides of the ball. Well, all three phases. I'm going to quit saying both sides of the ball. Really efficient kicking game, kicking the ball, returns, just light years, Chuck, light years ahead of where they were last year in that phase of the game.
You get a guy who can boom it into the end zone. You can't get one run back because, as we said and noted for the last couple of weeks, when you have that kind of guy, the coaches can sit down and pretty much game plan how the game's going to go out because they've watched enough film and they're smart guys. And they cannot predict or game plan a return punt or a return kickoff. And if you can eliminate one of those options, then, and the chances are for a return punts is long shot. So, if you can eliminate that, you're in pretty good position when game time starts.
Yeah, you are, and you're ahead of the game a little bit. And you're ahead of the chains. Uh, Defensively, really, really playing well since Asheville High, rallying to the ball, making tackles, uh, just just playing nasty and just physical and with an attitude. Fun to see. Fun to see.
It, as Jonathan said, on air and off air, but he was more adamant. He says, "Don't focus on one guy on defense." He said, "It's all 11. They are playing good football, and they're getting better every week." So
Yes, they are playing really good football. And again, the thing that it's good to see is it's things that you usually, if you kind of understand the game, and we talked about last Saturday, like pursuit angles, outside leverage, parallel to the line of scrimmage, keeping the guy off of you, keeping your other arm free, feet, good base, rallying to the ball, multiple hats to the football. So really good to see, and such an improvement the defensive in a defensive backfield. Uh, Man, Austin Sluter is really doing an amazing job with those kids back there. And listen to me. If your two corners and your two safeties, if I'm not mistaken, you're still playing three. I think three of them are sophomores. I think.
very young football team. So he's there's a couple players, very good skill players that that are not 100%, and and we just got to wait. But, you're doing this, you're stepping up, and your young kids are stepping up. And I will tell folks, there is a freshman that you just walk up and ask about the freshman. Jonathan Crampton's eyes will light up. And when that lights up, is that this kid's got a career ahead of him, a high school career ahead of him. And if he does the things his coaching staff tells him to do, and he busts it in the classroom, he will go and play someplace at the next level. And
Yeah.
Jonathan is adamant. He's not seen a young kid like that in a
Well,
long time.
you're talking about Everett Messer, the offensive lineman, defensive lineman, but again, when we're talking about the young kids, Chase Smalley is just a beast too. So good young kids, 3-1 coming into the break. I think if you would have asked John at the beginning of the year, let's go into the break 3-1, get ready for conference at 3-1 without Gavin. Don't forget that Gavin's played like 4 carries this year,
Right.
so number 7 hadn't been in there, so the kids are playing really well, and it's fun to see. Hey, we're going to go ahead and add Mr. Peter Clay to the stage with us, Chuck.
All
And
right.
Peter's up in East Lansing, Michigan. Good evening, Peter.
How's it going out there?
Oh man, there's that radio voice, baby.
You feeling better?
Yeah, I really am. Jonathan and I both have been beat up this week. I've tested for COVID 3 or 4 times. Jonathan's tested, and we don't have it.
Yeah,
just felt like garbage. So thank you for asking. And
yeah, it's going around. I'm trying to avoid people. I'm generally a social distancer, anyways. I don't like it when people get closer than 6 feet from me. So
you just don't like people. You guys from Michigan. Now look at Chuck. Look now, Chuck's down there in Winston Salem, and he has this cone of, back in Saturday Night Live they called it the cone of silence back when it first started. But Chuck and I both. We probably have a cone of hate. Don't come here. No. But welcome, Chuck. Welcome, Peter. We're waiting on our special correspondent from Montana to get back on. John Truitt is going to give us a live report out there as the Western Carolina University Catamounts are in Montana to play the Montana Grizzlies tomorrow in a big they used to call them the intersectional games back when we were kids growing up. A big game for the Cats against a really fine football team out there in Montana. So as soon as John can find a way, he'll link back up with us. He was here, then he was gone. But Peter, real quick, and chime in because you were one of the 2 voices of Buncombe County, but Western North Carolina football for years. And the mountain. Let me do this, Chuck, real quick. Tonight, I was going to say tomorrow night, but tonight, in about an hour and a half, you got Franklin at East Henderson, 3-0 at 3-1, and our thing is or in our text, my little thing I started. Don't sleep on, don't sleep on this or that. Don't sleep on the Eagles of East Henderson. They've vastly improved. West Henderson and North Henderson preseason, I would have told you not much of a football game. I don't think I can say that now. I just don't think that's going to. I still think West Henderson's a favorite tonight, Chucky, but I don't think it's the 50-point thing that it's been in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, West Henderson's coming off a 2-game losing streak, plus their defense is allowing just under 29 points a game. And for the last 4 years at West Henderson, they didn't care about that because they'd score 29 more points than you. But they're in tight games, and so their defense is still a little porous, but they're not as explosive. Although
Yep.
they have the McCraw kid is the conference leading rusher after 4 games. So he's 652 yards. So he's a pretty good running back. But North Henderson's going to have something to say in that football game tonight, although it being at West.
Yep. And then the final game of the night over at in Canton is you got the Smoky Mountain 2-2 coming into play. The I'm not even. I'll just say Pisgah. That's about because Jonathan gets mad at me if I say too much. But anyway, thoughts on that tonight, Chuck? Seriously, all joking aside.
Max Preps had it wrong, Pisgah, because Smoky played Pisgah last year at Pisgah.
So they're at Smoky. Okay, thank you for correcting that.
Yeah, well, I did too. You see my racing. I just took it for granted. All of a sudden, something came up, and I said, "Oh, this is wrong." Smoky return of Ricky Brindley down to the school that gave him his first head coaching job before, so he spent, 3-4 years down at Smoky before coming back to Pisgah High School. Pisgah got a rough start, but yet has turned it around, and they have a 3-1 record overall, and it seems like they found their rhythm in offense, and they're playing great defense, and they're doing that offensively without 2 of their best skill people. They've been out on the men. One's out for the year, and Sawyer Ballou, and then Kenyon Moore is, I think, a real. I talked to Jonathan about Kenyon Moore a while back about the talent they got, and Jonathan sings the praises of Kenyon Moore. So again, it looks like Pisgah. It'll be a tough night, but when you go to Franklin and when you go to Smoky, you better be prepared to accept it ain't going to go your way, from the flag standpoint. It's just the way it is. It's always that way. And
Chuck, you're going to get sued again.
I know.
You're going to get sued again. Good God.
Do we have David and Chuck?
Drop my pen. You made me drop my pen.
Do we have a lawyer at David and Chuck that can automatically handle my legal affairs?
I do. No. We've got a lawyer on standby, baby.
Okay. All right.
But we'll report the scores tomorrow morning on the Inside Tuscola Football with Jonathan Crompton, and live at 8:00. And we'll report the scores. As in true, all joking aside, we won't go into much detail of those games until we do the Dave and Chuck show next week, because the head ball coach frowns upon us doing that.
Right. Absolutely.
So, big night of high school football, and before we start talking about college football, and we got John Truitt out in Montana. He's in the waiting room right now. He's in the green room, and we'll have him on stage here in just a second. Hey, John, I'm glad you finally got back. We were going into a little panic mode, but Peter, you were one of the 2 voices of high school football in Western North Carolina.
I gotta say, I don't have much to add. I haven't been able to keep up as much as I would have liked. I remember who was good back then, and there's probably a decent chance they're still good.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, during your time here, the football here is a little bit different. It started changing with Coach Nolan and Jonathan to in his offense of kind of flinging the ball around the park. But, it was, but there wasn't a lot of flinging, but really good football here. And I thought that through your time here, I thought you appreciated it and really loved the rivalries and how intense and passionate people are here in Western North Carolina about high school football.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, high school football is big in Michigan, but not in the way that it was there, and how it was such a multi-generational thing, the entire town together. There's still a lot of that. I can't say that doesn't happen in Michigan, but no, the teams that obviously AC Reynolds had that stretch almost the entire time I was there. That was obviously got to see what John did at Yeah, Irwin, right?
Both.
Yeah. And then
Irwin and Tuscola.
at Tuscola, just seeing that,
Yeah.
and I remember that game, the TC Robertson comeback.
You remembered
When
something, he
John led
froze
that.
up there, and
Oh man,
he'll
and I was
be
coming
right
up with a
back.
great story.
And, yeah. So
No,
you cut
yeah,
out just a little bit, but
okay. But the TC
but
Robertson game, comeback, and John's senior year, just some amazing football to be able to watch, and we always had the game of the week, and that was I got to see some incredible high school football over the 6.5 or so years I was there.
So, Chuck, real quick, and then we're gonna start talking some college football, and then Major League Baseball wild card. You two Detroit Tiger turkeys, but where did you play, Chuck? Tell Peter where you played at.
At Flint Southwestern High School.
Okay.
I was a side kid at Flint Southwestern back in the day with Dark Christensen, and as a football coach, Marv Retman, who the Retman family, David knows well, played for Baltimore, and the hitting coach for about nine teams. But I had a great baseball coach and Coach Retman, and a great football coach. So it was a athletic at a time where Flint was producing tremendous athletes. The best that we can claim is that Dick Vitale was on ESPN in the olden days, and in the infancy. And Dick Vitale said, if you are a college basketball coach, let alone just any other college sport coach, the first stop you should make to get talent is go to Flint, Michigan.
Absolutely.
But it fell apart. I mean, it's just the auto industry up there, General Motors, Buick,
the water, but that doesn't mean they're not putting out quality talent. I mean, the 2000 Michigan State National Championship team, known as the Flintstones, and 4 guys from Flint, and a younger brother who played on the football team of why am I drawing a blank of his name? Robert Smith, who ended up having quite an NFL career out of that. But three most notable, of course, other than you, Chuck, the alumni of Flint Northwestern: Andre Rison, Glenn Rice, and Kelvin Torbert.
Absolutely.
Not bad.
I was Southwestern.
I thought you said Southwest. Oh man, I got it all wrong.
That's right.
Let's see what Flint Southwestern is. Then.
That's okay. Chuck threw rocks at their houses.
Yeah. Well, I dug bullets, going up to play.
Right. Okay, we got Charlie Bell from the 2000 National Championship team. Right. Miles Bridges played for the Charlotte Hornets. Terry Crews, the Terry Crews.
Yes.
And Mark Ingram the second,
the office linebacker.
So so that's Flint Southwestern. So not bad, not bad.
So
Carl Banks that played for the New York Giants.
Yeah,
was from Flint, and you had just outside many years ago, you had Brad Van Pelt just outside of Flint in Owasso, about 30 miles outside Flint. Was one of the best 3-sport athletes I've ever seen. So Flint was was a dynasty back in those days. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Things change, peaks and valleys.
All right, guys, we're going to talk some college football and live. And I forget the city that this young man is in. He's made a heck of an effort. I mean, he has walked mountains. He has swum rivers. He has skydived. He has done all this to be with us live from Montana as the Catamounts of Western Carolina University take on the Grizzlies of Montana tomorrow in a really big championship sub.
That's beautiful.
Chuck, I still call it 1AA. Dadgummit. What it's bowl championship thing. Not bowl, but
FCS. Football Championship Series.
Yeah, the FCS. Yeah.
FCS.
And this is tomorrow. That is a massive game nationally. And John, are you dried off?
Yeah.
Are you
yeah,
okay from all the stuff, the mountains you've climbed, the animals you've slayed, to single-handedly, barehanded to be with us tonight?
You had to go to 12,000 feet just to get a signal.
I did pretty much what I'm doing. I'm hypothermia up here for the team. I'll let you know we've been in snow, sleet, pouring rain, sunshine, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm on the side of the highway somewhere, Highway 49 between Browning and Kalispell, outside of East Glacier. So we did the road of the day. So there we go.
John, thank you for being on, and really
Truly,
excited to talk about tomorrow's game.
Yeah, it's a big game. It's very interesting. That whole town is dialed in. If you've ever been out to Missoula on Montana, on that school, that is unbelievable school support, community support they have. Plus, they have a stadium that seats anywhere between 30 and 35,000 for FCS football. So they like to brag about that, and they should be proud of it. But they, I said we've also played at Tennessee and Alabama, and they have more than 35,000. So
I think a glacier got a hold of him.
Yeah, I'm good. You there?
Yeah, I hear him clear.
Yeah,
I hear him clear as a bell.
Yeah.
Maybe
Go ahead.
Maybe it's Dave this whole time.
It is David.
It could be.
The thing is, the team out here, this is going to be a tall task for the Catamounts. They don't have a lot of turnover. They got 13 transfers in this year from, they got one from Nebraska, a couple from Fresno State, Cal. They got a guy from, I think, South Florida in. They do have quarterback issues, but when you have good line play, you decide to run the ball, and they ran for 410 yards on the ground last week. So they have lost this year to North Dakota, which that's no shame in that. Any of those Dakota schools, they play with North Dakota State, South Dakota, the Jackrabbits, but they also they're having a little bit of quarterback problems. But if you're running the ball and you got a great line, and you don't have turnover, and you keep guys 4 and 5 years, and they're not opting out to leave, that's a winning formula, in my opinion, because you're growing your team. We've had this discussion 400 times in our text stream. So one thing, Chuck's all-time favorite coach is the color analyst for the Grizz. That'd be Marty Morningweg. He's a color analyst for the Grizz, the former Detroit Lions coach.
Wow.
But the Grizz are also 232 and 35 at home, 868 winning percentage, 14 undefeated seasons in their home stadium. They got to have their third longest winning streak in FCS. And it's just, Western is going to have to spread the field a little bit on them. They like to play in the box right now, but they're just, it's a great program. I mean, you can't knock them, and they're very proud. Everyone's so nice out here. They really like to tell you how bad they're going to beat you too. So there you go. That's game starts tomorrow, 3 Eastern Standard Time, 1 o'clock here on ESPN 3.
ESPN 3, and any of the ESPN apps, people, you can watch it on any of the app, even if you don't have to. You can watch it on any tablet. You can watch it on your television anywhere. Now, give me a prediction. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Since you made such an effort to get here, and I mean, you could die going down the mountain, fighting those animals. So give me a prediction.
We had a grizzly attack yesterday, the trail we were going to hike today, so we didn't get to hike that one because they had to helicopter someone out after a grizzly bear drug him down the mountain for a little ways. So,
why don't you just leave the grizzly the hell alone? That's pretty simple.
Well, I got my head on swivel right now. You got to pay attention out here with the bear spray.
That's it.
I got some lead spray.
Give me a prediction.
Prediction. I know. Listen,
or thoughts.
Head prediction. Which one? You want to get my head or my heart?
Both.
35-31 Cats.
There you go.
Because we just got to put it together. Our defense is a lot better this year. Our offense is struggling, which I did not see happening. But I've never worried about the offense with Kerwin Bell. But losing those players he did to Division I, to Pitt, and it's hurt the offense. So we'll see. We're just going to have to, once again, if they're driving the ball down and we don't stop them, same old story I've had with Chuck, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. You got to stop them or they're going to keep the ball.
Right.
And turnovers have been the bugaboo so far this year too. Kind of hold on to the ball, got to throw it to the right colored jersey.
Well, they depended on the slant quite a bit for some reason because we hadn't had the outside receivers, and teams started sitting on it, and they killed us. I think Cole Gonzalez threw 4 interceptions in the Campbell game. It was just a nightmare. Came back last week, played better. And, I think, when those quarterbacks get in those situations, it's a confidence thing. It's not that he can't play the game. It's just pure confidence. Can he do it?
He's a good football player.
Oh, he's great.
He's a good football player.
Yeah,
but the thing –
Florida, his dad is.
The thing of it is at least I hope he doesn't have a good friend who goes, hey, man, I don't want to jinx you or anything, but, you're like one pass away from like setting the record for most consecutive passes without throwing an interception.
Yeah.
There's some guy just jinx, I mean, at least that's not in his life.
Yeah. Who, Chuck?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to call that out, but no, here, I'm going to show you this for see.
Is that Missoula, Montana? Is that where you are?
East Glacier, between East Glacier and Browning, Montana, on some highway called 49 that I don't even think goats should be on it. Mountain goats.
What's the name? Exactly where are you at right now? Are you in Missoula?
The technical term is BFE because I don't know.
Yeah.
We're in East Browning, Montana, East Glacier on the backside of the park, and going in Kalispell.
Are you near the Yellowstone Ranch?
No, they're actually filming on the street we're staying in Missoula. We've got a thing on our door where they were filming Yellowstone, and on our street, and had the production trucks here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I didn't know that till we got to our Airbnb. But no, we're not. We're out in the middle. I'm in the middle of nowhere right now. I drove to the top of the mountain. I said, I got reception. We're pulling over here and doing this. So I really don't know. I'm going to look it up and I'll give you official.
Well, that's some awesome. Big sky there. That's for sure.
Yeah, Chuck, you got any questions from John?
No, we've talked the last 2 days. I think what? No, all I want is this.
Bar Cafe and Missoula Cafe and Cigar Lounge. That's my sponsors for this segment.
Say it again. Say it again.
Stockman's Bar and Cafe and Missoula Cafe and Cigar Lounge. That's my sponsors for this segment. I told the guy to get their name out. Good places to go.
That's right. Hey, man, we got a good reach. But John, go get out of the weather. Thank you. Thank you from me. Thank you from Chuck. Thank you from Peter. And Catamount Nation and the people from Western Carolina should thank you for.
We got a great crowd.
And I'm serious when let me say this: the people out here from Cullowhee, they should thank you for caring enough that you bleed purple, and you make sure that people talk about that university and talk about that athletic program. So that's pretty damn awesome.
And by the way, Tennessee's going to win by 13. Just want to say that.
I hope Tennessee wins by 70. So I want them.
Sure.
I want them to keep panning to Big Bob Stoops' luxury suite throughout that whole game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, and this is and Chuck knows. Jonathan doesn't say much about the situation over there through the years. He really, man, he loves this guy. He said, Dad, this guy gets it. Talking about Coach Heupel and all that stuff, and really thinks the world of him and the culture in the standard that he's building. So that says a lot that those guys are going to go back.
every program has. Western went through that. I mean, I'm a Bama fan too. They went through it. Everybody thinks it's Nick Saban and Bear Bryant, and there was 20 years of, other than Gene Stallings, very average things going on. So it's hard. I mean, it's just hard to do. And and Tennessee had their fair share. Well, I'm just waiting for Ohio State to have theirs. So
No.
So's the rest of the world.
I
was that
very
So
Well,
anyway,
it's
but no,
a chance. It's a chance for Tennessee to.
All right,
It's a chance
bud.
for Tennessee
Thank
to
you.
welcome Oklahoma to the Big Ten, or I'm sorry, to the SEC.
SEC. Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. John, go get out of the weather, bud. Thank you.
Texas. Thank you, guys. Good to see you. Chuck,
Y'all
I'll text
see
you
you
later.
later.
See you, man.
Right. All right.
All right, bye.
Now, how awesome was that? That's good, man. So
Beautiful country out there.
oh, it is gorgeous. Janet and I drove through it last year on our way home from California. But I will, Chuck, on a football side,
Right.
Western needs to play fast and have multiple possessions. They don't want to get into a ground and pound in with Montana, and you got to keep. If you don't turn the ball over, they're going to score points.
There's two different styles of offenses. Western's got to dominate to where their style of offense is going to be dominant throughout the game. They cannot get in the phone booth, just like you said. Penalties, turnovers are going to be a factor. They got to catch at least 2 or 3 breaks. That's a hard place to play. I've watched a number of times Montana and Montana State, especially when they played each other, going through the night and watching games till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and love that kind of stuff. And that's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And right now, Western hasn't found their rhythm offensively. And you get up there and you get, whacked by one of those big, burly Montana farmers and ranchers. You're going to be in you're going to be in that fight all afternoon, and you got to catch some breaks in those games.
Now, I'm gonna kind of throw some things out, and I want you guys. We're just kind of spitball here just a little bit about tomorrow, okay? And I am good because we have anointed Peter, Mr. Big Ten,
right?
And before I get going, Peter, you are the voice inside the stadium at Michigan State, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So you have some pull, correct?
Well, I mean, a little
you
bit
have
here
some
and there.
pull. So
Yeah.
Chuck and I, if we decided we were going to take a road trip,
well, I think that might be able to help you out.
We don't want to sit out in the weather. We're spoiled.
The weather.
We're spoiled.
But you know what we say? It's a beautiful day for football. Every day is beautiful,
That's
rain
it,
or shine.
brother.
But I agree. It is
All
nice to be
right.
inside. Yeah,
Big-
you tell me.
All right, here we go. Big Ten. Tonight,
You go first.
here we go. Tonight, 24 Illinois at 22 Nebraska. That kickoff is at 8 o'clock on Fox tonight. And I hate that they play college football on Friday nights. I think it's garbage. Now, I say that every week.
Well, can I address that
Thoughts?
first? Because I have thoughts on that. Because I will say I agree. And every time Michigan State plays a Friday night game, it has been either Thanksgiving weekend, which is fine because in Michigan, that's a week after the state championships, or Labor Day weekend. And in Labor Day weekend in Michigan, they play most, if not all, of the games on Thursday night. But then Fox came in and started scheduling these Friday night Big Ten matchups, which is what it is. We've got one at home end of October, and one on the road in October against Oregon. And I high school football gets over here about 9. The games start a little earlier in Michigan, but yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but it's the world we're living in. But that is something that we found out this year as Michigan State fans. Oh, all of a sudden we're playing 3 Friday night games. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
anyways, but okay, that game is going to tell us a ton. Nebraska and Illinois, they're both ranked. These two teams haven't been ranked in years. It'll tell us a lot about who's better between the two of those, and then we got to see them match up against other teams in the Big Ten. I'm not convinced either of them is great yet, but they're putting the Big Ten right now in the standings and in the conversation. So I'm excited to watch it.
Chuck,
and thank you for the reminder.
Yeah,
to watch it.
Points by Peter. I just add the fact that I get this sense Balima's fingerprints are all over Illinois. And, he was a success in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. And Coach Rule is now, I get this sense he's turned the corner with Nebraska. And I agree with Peter. They're not great yet, but the optimum word is yet. And I think these two coaches are driving their program in the right direction. Be an interesting game.
All right. Tomorrow,
and I think
at noon,
Illinois showed us a little bit more with the win over Kansas. We don't know how good Colorado is, and we spent the last 20 minutes last week talking about how we don't know how good Colorado is. So, other than that, I mean, Nebraska is always going to be a favorite. They've got great fans. They're one of the most likable teams in America, except for back when I was at MSU and they came into Michigan State and beat them, I think, 55-0 in Nick Saban's first game as a head coach.
All right. Ohio State, Marshall, noon. There's not much to talk about there. Besides, I love the coach at Marshall. NIL to
Absolutely.
Any player from Ohio State, free biscuits and gravy for unlimited biscuits and gravy.
It's the big noon kickoff. I mean, I don't know. Marshall's hopefully not going to lay a complete egg. I mean, it's the MAC and the Big Ten have a special relationship, and so you get what you get. Although Marshall, are they in Conference USA now? Or are they? I can't even remember.
No, they're in the Sun Belt. They moved to
the Sun Belt. Okay, they move around a lot. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Ohio State right now is the class of the conference. They're beating everyone they should, and they're not really. But they haven't been tested, so I'm looking forward to getting more of these teams in conference play.
Got some cupcakes. Go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry, my friend.
No, it's just the same. I can't. Again, there's no point to add. Peter's done is spot on the Marshall game and the Ohio State. It's a matter of how many points Ohio State wants to win by. They dictate that.
All right, Chuck. Southern Cal at Michigan, conference game.
Well, I sent a little text to you guys. There is a guy that is in his 7th year that is an outstanding football player, quarterback named Jack Tuttle that's at Michigan. But he's got one of those what pitchers have been all year long, that Tommy John thing. So they're trying to see if they can get him. If they get him back, he's a veteran. He's a guy you can't shake. It won't help them tomorrow, but right now they got Orgy in there, and they're under. They're the least talented team between the two. I think the speed of Southern Cal comes in there and wins by a couple touchdowns.
I think Michigan. I'm always going to jump at the opportunity to take down Michigan. I don't think they're as bad as a team as they looked against Texas, and I think Texas is that good of a team. And that's, but Southern Cal, they're just one of those teams. They get that hype and then they disappoint. I mean, I hate to keep harping on a lot of it, but it's so early in the season to say that this is a marquee matchup. I mean, certainly is. I mean, there's a lot of history there. They played in a lot of Rose Bowls against each other. And I believe Southern Cal holds a pretty significant advantage over them. In fact, that weird stat came out. Southern Cal has a winning record against every team in the Big Ten except one. They're 5-5 against Michigan State. Everything else they have. So
it's going to be a long year with you two. It's going to be a long year because once it gets real, it's going to be fun.
But I think Southern Cal. I'm interested. I'm interested in this game tonight. I'm interested in that one. I'm obviously interested in the cross conference matchup later. But I think your next one you're going to mention might be Iowa and Minnesota.
Yeah,
which is always a good game.
And it is, and we've had this discussion for a couple of years. I was really big on the row your boat guy because I love his culture. I love his passion. Chuck, if I'm putting words in your mouth, you just shut me up. Okay. But I think Chuck has always been just kind of going, you haven't really shown me anything of significance.
Right. You can say
this is a big game for Minnesota. This is a bigger game for Minnesota than it is for Iowa.
Right.
For the head coach.
Those hyperboles and all those slogans, row the boat, and we're elite, elitism, we're searching. There's a point in time where you got to just shut up and go play football, winning football. They've had one good year out of PJ, and he came ordained as one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. They were doing a segment on him, how great he was. 6-5 or 6-6 and 7-5. Come on, what am I missing here? Focus on the talent.
Tough place to win. Tough place to attract players to. Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. But I mean, I've been there in the winter, and you think it's cold in Michigan. Right. Nothing compared to Minneapolis. PJ Fleck took a MAC team to the Cotton Bowl. It was one of the most exciting things that happened in the state of Michigan in a while. I mean, to have that team be that strong. I think it was, you couldn't expect him to stay, and it was neat to see him go to a school in the Big Ten. But you look at some mistakes. I mean, it reminds me of Urban Meyer going to the Jaguars. You can't, no matter how good you are, you can't fix a bad situation sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to end the Big 12 with this. And I'm going to throw this to Chuck first because I know Kevin, his brother,
the Big 10 or the Big 18. Which how many?
Well,
teams
I call it the Big 10 plus 155.
Yeah. Big 10 and the Little 8.
But and I know Kevin's listening tonight. Hey, Kevin, we miss you, bud. Michigan State and Boston College in Boston. Kickoff is at 8:00 on the ACC network tomorrow night. And Chuck, don't talk with your hate for the Sparties, but you be the football guy. Tell me what you think, because before you do, I do want to say, because I try not to until tomorrow to get into a lot of detail for me. But man, don't sleep on Boston College.
Right. Castellanos, an extremely gifted quarterback, very athletic. But Michigan State has Adrian Childs. Is that how you say it, Childs?
Aiden Childs, yep.
Man, I tell you what, he's impressive. So Jonathan Smith has gone to Michigan State and has completely did a 180 for him, and that's good for the Big Ten. I think that Boston College, although they have the former NFL coach and Bill O'Brien, and it's that bandana day, the red bandana day night up there in Boston College. I think Michigan State goes up there and shows that they're a physical football team too, and they have the quarterback will make plays, more plays than Castellanos, and I think they can come away with a great road win, and that means against a great team. So Boston College only loss was to number 7 Missouri now, number 7. And so they're going to be a tough opponent, but I just think Michigan State's got more weapons.
It's Michigan State. This game didn't look all that attractive at the beginning of the season. It was nice we were playing another major school, but Boston College is much improved. I think maybe a little bit. That beating Florida State was certainly part of what elevated them. This red bandana day, it's a big deal for them. I know that talked to the executive director of the Alumni Association of Michigan State that yesterday they've got all their tailgates are sold out with waiting lists. The local Michigan State chapter sold 900 tickets, and they're expecting 5,000 to 10,000 Michigan State fans in that place, which will change a little bit. But again, it's a passionate game. It's a tough game. Michigan State needs to eliminate the mistakes. I mean, even in wins, Aiden Childs has thrown 3 interceptions, in against Maryland. But I really like the culture. I really think Jonathan Smith is the kind of guy I want to hang out with. He just seems just so down to earth. He really, I think that this could be a really special season. I think tomorrow I think they're right. They're going to squeak out a win, but it's going to be a competitive game. It's going to come down to turnovers, penalties, and whether the teams are, able to be two-dimensional. Because if you shut down the run or shut down the pass, obviously, it changes the entire scheme of things. And Michigan State's got to be able to run the ball in order to threaten the pass. So.
Got it.
And I'm going to keep kind of moving here. Tomorrow at noon on ABC and ESPN Plus, Clemson is hosting NC State. If you would have asked me preseason, I would have said really competitive game and maybe a slight edge to the Wolfpack. I don't think it's going to be close, Chuck. I don't think it's going to be close, Peter. I think that the Tigers are going to wear them out down in Death Valley.
NC State hasn't proven they have a defense. I mean, they allowed Western Carolina, I think, to go down and score on their first possession. I don't think NC State's as good as they might have looked earlier, and I think Clemson's better. I mean, they're sick of people talking shit about them. And I think they're talented.
Chuck and Jonathan. Well, I can't say that. Chuck is a betting man. I will say that I've got $1 in my hand. I know the first thing he's going to say about NC State. Go ahead.
Quarterback. They have no quarterback. Their transfers have ruined NC State, and I just don't think NC State has the talent to stay with Clemson. Is that what you were looking at, thinking I was going to say? That's
exactly. I knew you were going to say that, and again, preseason, I would, if you'd have said that, I'd have said you've lost your mind. But you have not lost your mind. I think you're spot on with that analysis because look, he's a great kid. He did great things at Coastal, but he has not made any plays here.
They went to the Bailey kid, the C.J. Bailey kid, a true freshman out of Miami, 6'6" quarterback, true freshman. And when the quarterback got hurt last week, NC State, and he's got an arm, he's got a little moxie, but he's still a true freshman. And he's a true freshman. You're going to have a true freshman lead you down in Death Valley. No. That may get ugly real quick.
I think that we forget. We think that any position can just transfer and instantly become effective. Quarterbacks, you've got to learn a lot, and you see it in the NFL, and we've seen it a few times that someone transfers schools, and probably the big example was pre-transfer portal coming out of NC State going to Wisconsin. But I think that there's special examples. Michigan State got lucky because they get a 4-star quarterback that transfers along with his coach. And so the system that was going to be put in place was the system he was already familiar with. But I don't see why these quarterbacks feel like they can go. I mean, so many have failed transferring from one school to other and end up, they would a lot of them don't even make it to the first game as the starter.
Right.
And that being said, go Wolfpack. I mean, I'm a 100%.
Well, it again is that you have this one situation with Fran Brown up at Syracuse, and I think there may be the TCU of this year's season is that he's got them believing. But here's the thing: they got, in my mind, the best quarterback in the transfer in the country, in Kyle McCord from Ohio State. I mean, he led Ohio State in big games to 11-1, losing only to Michigan. And they get him up there. And I've watched enough of these shows that they've done on ACC Network where they are believers in Fran Brown and their quarterback. So, but the other teams you look at, you're thinking, O'Rourke from transfer from Ohio to Indiana, that's working out good. Yeah, as you mentioned, Michigan State, but there's not a lot of pressure on the kid.
Look, year two, McCaffrey looks like he's finally gonna. Iowa might have found an offense, so
Yeah.
there's. But yeah, that it takes
Yeah.
time, and I don't think you could transfer 2-3 times at quarterback like some of these guys are doing at wide receiver and running back.
Right.
And, where
you got to have a chemistry built, and when you put a guy out there, and I'll give you a prime example, Florida State, when DJU transferred in, and they had a quarterback battle, and they named the DJ the starter. A big-time quarterback transferred out from Florida State. He says, I'm not going to stick around for this. And so it's back. The coaches think that once you get a transfer, this is going to be great. This can be great. Well, I always ask people, like the Indiana quarterback, O'Rourke, 4 years at Ohio. That's a MAC school. This isn't transferring from Georgia. Kentucky got Vandergrift from Georgia on his last year. This will be the third straight year Kentucky started a transfer quarterback, and it hasn't worked out for him. So it is what it is.
It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So the game that I do want to talk about before we move on to the SEC is Cal at Florida State. Wow.
Two great schools on the Atlantic coast.
I am shocked that he's there this week. I'm shocked that he's there because, the Board of Trustees met Sunday, Chuck. Was it Sunday in an emergency meeting? And they approved the total buyout. They got the money sitting there to write the check.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be the chancellor, it could be the AD, or a combination of both. But if Cal goes in there and beats the Seminoles, I think that he doesn't see week 5. And I hate that. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good football coach. I just think I go back to what you just said. The grass. Sometimes you're bringing in grass that you think's really green.
As coming from experience, when that decision is made, the transfer portal immediately opens and players can transfer out midseason. It is something they have to think about. What's best for the players. Obviously, the donors are going to have a say. The fans are going to have a say, but it's a decision that can't be made lightly because it changes the scope of what you're dealing with at the season. But I can't say it would be the wrong one. But there's also, what good can happen out of it. You're not going to get a new permanent coach midseason.
Can I ask you this question? 13-0, and you fire the guy by week 5. From 13-0 to being fired. Is that really something you'd want to do?
Go ahead, Peter.
I mean, no, not at all. This is coming from a fan of a team that made it to the 2015 college football playoff and went 3-9 the next year with a top 10 recruiting class. There were calls for Mark D'Antonio to be fired after that season, but there are so many variables. I just can't see doing it. But Florida State fans are passionate and they want answers now. And they felt like they had something. And now apparently, at least for one season, they don't.
Chuck, I'm going to turn you loose.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to last year. And this is, you had Clemson and you had Florida State through the ACC to try and leave and get more money. And when they did that last year, and Florida State was whining and complaining and just acting silly and about the money, Bubba Cunningham, the AD at North Carolina, a Flint guy, Bubba's from Flint, lit Florida State up publicly. and basically told them, you can whine and cry all you want, but you got a long history of blowing money for crazy reasons. You can't manage your money. And when you come to us, everybody else doesn't have that problem. Your management and your administration is blowing money you don't have. And you got a $26 million buyout, and you got a lawsuit, even though they are negotiating possibly ending this thing. And you're going to tell, and you're crying for more money, and you're going to spend $26 million on a buyout. That's a bad look. So Bubba, and I know Bubba Cunningham at North Carolina will light Florida State up if they do that. I don't think Norvell leaves at all this year. There's enough teams on their schedule that his move that would save his job is the bench DJ, if that comes to it, and put his backup, a redshirt freshman, in there and say, look, I'm playing with a redshirt freshman. I got to recruit something like that. But I don't think Norvell leaves it because Florida State has got egg on their face, and here you're going to give $26 million, and then you want to come into the ACC asking for more money. Manage your programs better.
Which leads me to the noon kickoff on the SEC and on ESPN. And I'm looking at, I'm going to look at both your faces. 1-2 Florida, at 1-2 Mississippi State, and Napier is in deeper water than our man down at Florida State.
Wait, that's your marquee matchup? Because I know we did.
No, that's not my marquee.
Okay.
I just want to know what we're thinking when Florida goes into Starksville and gets their teeth kicked.
I'm going to be playing with my band at a chili cook-off at that point, and I don't think I'm going to be missing much about this game. I really have nothing to add, I got to tell you, other than Florida's Florida and Mississippi State's Mississippi State. They're the worst MSU in America.
I looked at this matchup at noon and at home, and I spent about 10, 15 minutes on it. And I pulled away from it because I didn't think you were going to go ahead and pull this thing.
No, I just want to know about Napier, your thoughts on Napier.
And then you come up, and I think this is an important game to watch. Because you're talking about one of the former bell cows of college football at 1-2, and they are a mess. And how long does Napier, stay, as the head coach? What happens to Napier? He's now on the road, and I don't know if he's got to fix it. I mean, you got half the fan base wanting the Langley kid, the 5-star true freshman quarterback, which he came in last week and didn't do squat, but throw 2 interceptions. And then you got Mertz, who just looking over his back going, this is what I transferred for. Who left Wisconsin to go and play at Florida, thinking that Florida was a great football program, and that's not the case. But so you got problems at Florida, and I don't think there's a fix it. So now, how do they play?
I agree. I totally agree. 3:30 on ABC. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I do want to say UCLA is fitting to learn a lesson in life tomorrow in Baton Rouge. They are fitting to learn what a real road game is all about.
Hey, we don't get to claim them as the Big Ten yet. They're still a Pac-12 team until they played a Big Ten game.
Man, it was I'll tell you, I'll never forget when Jonathan called home when he was injured and they went to LSU, and he said, "Hey, Dad, they tried to turn our bus over." Yeah, we're trying to get to the state. They're rocking our bus, trying to turn our bus over. UCLA is fixing. All joking aside, that's a different animal they're going into tomorrow in Baton Rouge.
Well, I know that the SEC people, all SEC people, will go when they tote that butt whipping on and put it on UCLA. They're going to be, oh no, they ain't packed. That's a Big Ten right there. We just beat and whipped a Big Ten team.
They are going to shout it. It'll be all over on the news and everything. But I just I love the thought of that novelty. Has that UCLA ever gone to Baton Rouge to
No,
play a football game?
not that I know of.
That I love. I love that about college football. Some of these matchups, well, get ugly early, but still, it's just seeing UCLA in those. They'll probably make them wear their powder blue uniforms, and LSU tangling in the Death Valley Stadium, Tiger Stadium. I just want to see it. And I may turn it off after one quarter, but just to see them on that field and going at it, I really want to focus in on UCLA and their reaction playing in that place.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because
I-
it is a whirlwind of it is unbelievable. And
I have
UCLA has one of the best baits to play home and a home. Yeah, they get to go in there, but then they get to host. Assuming this is a home and home somewhere,
Right.
they'll host them in the Rose Bowl. I mean, if I'm
right.
scheduling a game, it's like, well, let's go out there, let's play in that venue, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll actually sell tickets because there's been some embarrassing attendance for UCLA when they play there. But
Hey,
yeah, my
Peter?
experience with LSU was at the 1995 Poulin Weed Eater Independence Bowl in the Spartan Marching Band, where their fans showed me what I can only describe as the Michigan fans of the South.
oh my God.
At best.
My brother is at home doing this.
Oh. And then
I'll hear it tonight. That's an excellent point about the Rose Bowl. The fact, I had a player I coached at Mount Airy High School, and he went to Vanderbilt, and he told me, Coach, one time, he said, when we played down there, Vandy, and this is against Vandy, they ain't wearing anything.
Yeah.
He said, I standing next to a guy, and we were talking, lips were moving, we couldn't hear each other. It's the loudest place he's ever been in. And UCLA can pull that. They can take, and Peter, you'll know what I mean. You'll take those UCLA song girls and put them behind the LSU bench to try and take that focus off the game on the visiting Tigers from Baton Rouge. Those are beautiful women that they'll put behind that bench.
and then
LA women. Great
then
song by the Doors too.
The game that the nation is really tuned into tomorrow. 7:30 kickoff ABC. The 6th ranked Volunteers, and I still think right now they're better than 6, but rankings mean absolutely garbage, nothing right now. And going into Oklahoma, and it means there's a lot more than just this football game going on. Man, they Coach Heupel, I promise you, it's personal. He can stand up and say all he wants. This is personal beyond imagination.
Well, we'll go back. Coach Lorvell, the head coach at Colorado State, and Coach Heupel fell on the sword as Big Game Bob Stoops fired him in 2014. Was it? Fired him in 2014. Public firing. And if y'all remember, Heupel was a Heisman runner-up at Oklahoma. That's his alma mater. That's his home. And it's like, wow, a guy making that kind of decision that was an Iowa head football coach or Iowa football player, and Bob Stoops had nothing to do with Oklahoma other than taking that job. And I watched all week, and Heupel's just a comedian. He's light and everything, but I agree with you, David. If he has, I'm going to say it this way. If Heupel has the ability to hang 70 points on him, Oklahoma, he will hang 70 and go for 2 and get one onside, try and get one onside kick when the game is not in doubt. He will do all what he can, and then maybe time to turn around and look at that corner luxury suite up there at the press box at Big Game Bob Stoops and his family. I'm telling you, man, and Tennessee they have that ability. I watched Oklahoma last week against Tulane, I think it was. It was Tulane. And I was not impressed. Not impressed. I thought this team's not ready for the SEC. So we'll find out if I'm wrong on that. But I believe that Tennessee can hang 70 or more. They'll do it.
I think more surprisingly, I mean, the Houston game the week before, I mean, to see that with 16-12, that's not an offense. Oklahoma hasn't proven they could play anybody. But and again, I mean, what a year to decide all of a sudden you're joining the SEC, coming out of a really. If you go back 5 years, I mean, Oklahoma, I think, went to the playoff more than any team other than Alabama. This is not the team that they wanted to enter the conference with, and I don't think they're anything close to the number 15 team in the nation. But it's certainly going to show both of these teams what's going on. It's the first marquee matchup that either of these teams are playing this year.
I put myself into Heupel's position. Would I be that way? You damn right I would. If I got fired from my alma mater, and that is, and then turn around and this situation unfolds, and I got that date circled. Now, I'm not going to let my team, I'm not going to play into the team getting ready and everything, but in my soul, I'm keeping it personal. Because when it gets to the point, if I can get that lead, a large lead, then I'm going to go for 2. I am going onside. I'm going to do what I can to rub that nose, because I've held that bitter pill for 10 years. For 10 years now.
And when they ask you this, Chuck, or they ask you this, Peter, I'm going to see if Peter even knows the answer, or when you answer it, Chuck, if he knows.
Oh, I know.
How come you went for 2, Chuck?
Because I couldn't go. The rules say I can't go for 3.
That's right. Woody Hayes, baby.
Yeah.
So, but I think that Coach Heupel has. Look, they're like everybody else. You're going to use the portal for and against you. You're going to lose kids. You're going to bring kids in. If you want, I think Georgia uses it better than anybody at this point. But I think Coach Heupel is kind of in that same kind of structure. I say that to say that these guys want to play for him. These guys, and it's not just this quick fix, what is going to happen in the next 5 seconds type of thing. You're building a culture. You're building a standard. You're building, when you look at the guy in the locker room and you look at the guy beside you and you go, man, I'm in the foxhole with you. And I think that these kids are going to go out there kind of like Jonathan's kids did for him last week, and threw the coaches out of the locker room. And I don't know what they said. But basically, this is personal for Coach, and we're going to go get this. And I think that those kids wearing orange tomorrow, or at least at the start of the game, they're going to say, hey, this is for our guy. This is for the guy that our guy. Because, guys, he was the face of Oklahoma football. The program was kind of mediocre when he walked in there as a junior college transfer at quarterback as an afterthought, and ended up winning the national championship with him. And he was the face of the program, and that was a bitter, bitter, bitter pill, because it was so public the way that it happened for Stoops when he called that press conference in front of the world and said, he's not coming back, and kind of threw him under the bus.
I think you got to play with a chip on your shoulder. I think that he'll probably have more restraint because, it's still his alma mater, and he's going to live longer. I think it's just playing with the chip, playing smart, and if they get the opportunity, of course you take it and you turn it into the rivalry that it could be. The SEC is ripe for some new rivalries, and that's one that could be there under the right circumstances.
the little side story on Hypo's situation when he got fired, he tried to take a guy through an olive branch, the Utah State through an olive branch out to Hypo to come on and be their offensive coordinator. So he had to take a drop down position. It wasn't a lateral. And the significance of that Utah State, because he was the one that recruited a quarterback named Jordan Love, who is now the starting quarterback at Green Bay. And Hypo then 1 year, and he told his offensive coordinator, who is his offensive coordinator now, assistant coach who was at Utah State, and his buddy who went to Utah with him, who's now his offensive coordinator at Tennessee. At that time, he said, buddy, I got to go. He took a job at Missouri 1 or 2 years, and then boom, he pops down to Central Florida. And then everything else is history. So this is interesting tomorrow, but I think Hypo, listening to Jonathan talk about, he gets it. And I root for Tennessee, and I just like good football teams and good programs. But when guys go fall on the sword, and Tennessee fans know all too well, too many guys have fallen on the sword for Phil Fulmer. Am I going to get sued for that? I think the fact remains is that you look at guys like Bob Stoops and you think, it was a job-saving move. Because if he wasn't going to axe them, then he was going to get the axe. And he took a Oklahoma prodigal son and just shipped him off with no regard to his family or anything like that. So anyhow, I'm rooting for Tennessee big tomorrow.
All right. Before we go, we cannot leave without talking about baseball and a couple of things. Now, this is where Chuck and I have a parting of the roads before we talk about the playoffs. You cannot talk about baseball without talking about what happened in Miami last night and what Ohtani is doing. And I think he's 51-51 now, I think. But just 6 for 6 last night, 3 homers, 2 doubles. Should have had to cycle, but got thrown out at third on the other double. 10 RBI, 17 total bases, 51 homers, 51 stolen bases. Dang. Just dang. I tip my hat to him and say, man, you're playing a different game, and I appreciate that. You're not a showboat. You're not this. You're not that. And man, it's amazing to see for me who loves the history of baseball. U.S. history and baseball history are my two things because I think they intertwine. What he is doing is man, they're going to have to write a different book for him. And I know, again, Chuck and I have a total disagreement on him. But I'm totally just going, wow, amazing job, phenomenal.
I tell you, just congratulations to Ohtani. A baseball fan will look at that box score and figure it out.
It's not one game. It's not one game.
No, but it's a man that does not play defense. He doesn't pitch this year, so there's no stress on his body. He bats typically four times in a game. And, never has the MVP been a designated hitter. But there's been a rush to that. Well, Aaron Judge will play 162 games or 150, whatever the time he spent on that DL, slight injury. But he's out there in the field chasing down balls in the heat and the grind and everything like that. And that's big. Because most players that play two ways. Everybody says, well, Tony's a unicorn. He's a two-way player. No, he's a designated hitter and a pitcher. That's two ways. He doesn't play defense. So the days he pitches, he doesn't bat, or that may change. But so we'll see a different results next year when he starts pitching for LA. And, I would like to see Ohtani be the true unicorn, and that is play three ways: defense,
Well, they
bat.
and Peter, before you chime in on this, I think he's going to be their right fielder next year, according to everything that I read in the past month. He's going to play right field and pitch and bat second, because they're going to put Betts back at leadoff. But I'm going to throw it to you, Pete. Have you got any thoughts on that before we start talking about the wild cards?
No. I am just not a baseball guy. That's as much as I'd love to be. I think I told you last week, Bally ruined that for me. But tonight's
I agree with you on that. We are a total agreement.
On Apple TV Plus. I think I can watch it. I think I might actually be able to watch tonight's game. It's bottom of the first, no score.
Yeah, I've got. So, all right. So to you two, because Detroit has come from nowhere to that. If the season ended today, they're the third wild card team in the American League. I think they're going to end up. Yeah, no, they are the wild card team today.
Yeah,
if it ended today. Talk to me about your Tigers, guys.
Hey, the excitement. It's all about momentum. Honestly, you probably talked to half the people in the state and you said, "Hey, the Tigers in the playoff hunt." What? It really, honestly, took a lot of people by surprise. It's fun. That's the best part. It's fun to be a Detroit sports fan for the first time in a while. The Lions obviously have had a good run. The Tigers are finally building something back. Red Wings, were on the verge of the playoffs last year, got back in, and we don't need to talk about the Pistons. But it's all about the excitement. I can be a fair weather fan, and that's really where I am with baseball in general. And but hey, there's something to talk about.
Almost 10 years we have come to September, the beginning of September, and we're like, oh my God, Detroit's out of it already. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time in about a decade where all of a sudden we're relevant and in a fight for a postseason berth in September. And if we can, this weekend with Detroit at Baltimore, if we could do 2 or 3 or maintain that third spot, we have 3 games at home. Listen to me. My team, Detroit has 3 games at home against Tampa Bay and finishes up the season home 3 games against Chicago White Sox. It's prime if they just can get through this weekend. So big weekend. We just, unfortunately, David and I will have to be on the opposite sides of this for 3 days. But this is a critical weekend for Detroit.
Well, it's not really going to affect the Orioles' chances of getting into the playoffs. And really, Minnesota, what are they going to do at Boston? It's all right there happening. The excitement's happening at teams that are just barely over 500. Which is fun.
That goes back to, for me, I think it's too watered down. I do think it's too watered down. And this is not a slight on Minnesota, Detroit, or any of that at all. But, in the real baseball world, in which especially the two of us, more so Chuck and I than you, Peter, grew up in, they're thinking about spring training like 20 days ago.
Yeah.
Because, it's like the ACC basketball tournament back in the day. The 2 best teams in college basketball in 1974 were Maryland and NC State, but only one could go to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
So I think it's it's watered down. I think there's too many teams in the playoff system, but they're not going to change it. So we're going to have to live with this. And it is exciting. I'm not going to say that it's not exciting, because it is.
I think baseball is still the
It is
most
cool to see.
exclusive playoffs to get into as far as numbers. I mean, I guess we'd have to look at the percentages, but the getting to the playoffs in baseball is still probably one of the biggest feats in sports. But I guess it just depends on what you're a fan of. I mean, if you're a Braves fan, you probably thought that everyone goes to the playoffs. What do they make 15 straight playoffs or something ridiculous like that? And then at the same time, teams that haven't sniffed the playoffs in 50 years. And the Tigers.
I will say this. I sent in our group text this morning when Ohtani went 50-50. I sent a group and nobody responded. I think everybody was asleep because it was early. I got to the office about 5. And I'm sitting there and I had this text typed out at like 5:15. I said, I can't send it yet. I can't send it yet. I can't send it yet. And I waited till like 6:40 something, and I pushed the button, and I'll tell you, Ricky Henderson is a national treasure. Okay, if you know baseball, Ricky Henderson is truly a national treasure. And my text said it was a parody of him talking to sending a text or a phone call to Ohtani. It goes, "Hey Shohei, Ricky here. Ricky understands that you went 50-50. Ricky is going to come out of retirement at 65 years of old because Ricky knows that Ricky can steal 51 bases and Ricky knows he can hit 50 home runs. So Ricky is going to go break that record at 65 years old. Ricky out." And that's what I sent this morning at like 6:40 something. But I don't know.
Still faster than me. What uniform do you picture on Ricky Henderson? What team?
The A's. For me, it's always the A's.
Yeah, totally. And there aren't a lot of A's that's the primary uniform you'd picture them wearing. Obviously they're famous.
It's like Reggie in the Hall of Fame should not wear a Yankee uniform. That's bullshit.
Yep.
I'm not supposed to. That's bull garbage. Reggie Jackson's supposed to have an A on his hat. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, Lou Whitaker, and look, I'm not the biggest Detroit Tigers fan. Lou not being in the Hall of Fame is a travesty. It is a travesty. He is a part of the greatest double play combination in the history of baseball. Those two guys were the best to ever do it together, period, bar none. And I grew up with Mark Belanger as one of my heroes at shortstop for Baltimore. But Lou Whitaker should be in the Hall of Fame. And what are your thoughts on that, Chuck?
I love Lou Whitaker. Looking at his stats and everything, he is just on the cusp. I don't think he deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Oh my God.
I think Detroit should put him in their Hall of Fame because he deserves a spot there. But I think as an elite player, I think he was a very good player. But again, our Hall of Fame is becoming from elite down to very good to pretty soon it's going to be, all the good players are going to get in. So we're dumbing down statistics and performances. I love Lou Whitaker, but I'm answering honestly.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would say the same. I mean, Alan Trammell, yes. Jack Morris, yes. I'm not sure how many players from that 84 team truly deserve to be in the Hall. I mean, you got to have a lot of seasons of great play, and I mean, he was solid. But yeah, I
got park over there.
That's a tough question. I'd have to dig deeper.
Hey,
he's not,
on a park right.
Oh, he's getting kicked out.
He's keeping the peace. But I always thought that Lou deserved to be in. But before we get off, you guys did business to do. Yeah, you got whatever you guys want to talk about. Spit it out this weekend. What's on your mind about sports? Any sport, any time, I don't care.
Hey, Detroit's going into Arizona. I think that's going to be a good, hopefully, a redemption from last week. Arizona's hot, and it's going to be hot because it's being played in Arizona. So I'm excited to see that after that unfortunate ending. If you're a Lions fan, last Sunday, obviously Michigan State, the Big Ten, lots happening. The team's finally getting some conference play here. I think next week we fully get into it across the country, and some exciting things to watch there. But I know where my TV is going to be tuned tonight. Actually, I'm going to have two side by side to watch some of this Tigers game, and then also I know where I'm going to be watching tomorrow with that Tennessee matchup against Oklahoma, and obviously Michigan State, Boston College. So
Last
where my
thing
head's at.
mind is the how you mess up on draft picks. Carolina benching number 1 overall, Bryce Young, and rightfully so. Horrible. They were listening to the evaluation from the GM, and they are literally talking about his height deficiency. His eyes go down because he doesn't trust his line. He can't make the throws because he can't see over the middle, so everything's out to the outer thirds. I mean, they ripped him. And I think that the other one is now they're starting to talk about Caleb Williams at Chicago, that maybe he's not what we thought we were. And he's only 2 games into his NFL career. So this is interesting to see how all of a sudden they're throwing these quarterbacks, overpaid and underperforming quarterbacks, underneath the bus.
I think it's too early. I mean, I've just heard about coaches talking about spoiling quarterbacks, and I think it can happen at every level. I think you can't trust in a rookie quarterback. They're going to be able to adjust to the speed of the NFL game that quickly. I think that, the fans want to see him play, but figure out a situation where you're putting him in, get him in for, 20, 15 snaps a game in some key scenarios, but you can't throw him to the wolves like that.
Right. I mean, you on the whole year and then 2 games, really. I mean, he played, this is his 19th, he's got 19 games underneath his belt, and he's 2-17. But watching him, I don't watch NFL games, but watching him for a quarter, maybe 2 quarters, when they were playing New Orleans, and literally getting toasted. And I thought, when you tell the truth, he's probably about 5'9" and 175 pounds, 5'10" at the most. And this kid is just not a prototypical athletic quarterback or a state, because if he's a pocket quarterback, he's got to be 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", or how, to see over the line. He is throwing into windows, and they got defenders there, and everything he throws is into coverage where you got people contesting the throw. And most everything, when you look at his passes and his yards, he's throwing these 3 little yard outs, out to the flats, little things. He's throwing horizontal. So, hey.
Yeah, he may already be spoiled. It may be, it's hard to get it back once you've been.
But Caleb Williams, give him time. He's just 2 games into his career. Give him time.
No, yeah. But, yeah.
So, by the way, end of the first inning, Baltimore 2, Detroit nothing. But it's a long way to go, and Baltimore doesn't have a closer or middle relief or late relief. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank John Truitt. I can never, ever thank our sponsors enough. Sutton & Sons Antique Mall, Ryan and that whole family support everything that we do. Everything that Mountaineer football, Mountaineer athletics, and everything that we do on the Jonathan Crompton show, Inside Tuscola Football, and the David and Chuck show. Caffeine and Chaos. Janet now has a Caffeine and Chaos t-shirt, a Caffeine and Chaos hooded sweatshirt. Jonathan's going to go in the morning before the show and get the blackberry, whatever the thing is that he eats in like 6 seconds. as he drinks his 14 cups of coffee that you probably already have 18 by then. And Crompton's Auto Mart. And I really would like folks to go to CromptonAuto.com. I've got a great inventory down there, 100% guaranteed credit approval. Good. I mean, I'm gonna get you financed. I got great vehicles for you. So support your local businesses. Thank you to John Truitt. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chuck. Chuck, I'll see you early in the morning. And for you to listen, don't give me this stuff about, oh my God, I got up early. I got up at 7. Listen to me. I will probably close my eyes at 2:30 or 3:00. I will be up here preparing by 5.
That's
Now,
not something to brag about. That's why you got sick this week. You're not getting enough sleep. Get more sleep.
Amen, Peter.
I got
he says, I'm old.
But anyway.
You don't need to talk to your older brother that way. You're like,
but here's the deal. When we are making a road trip now, Chuck and I are going to plan a road trip to eat. Chuck, you have to sneak into East Lansing, even with your brother there, because they, you are a maize and blue kind of guy. And we're going to try to get in the press box because we're going to act like we own the building. That's our deal. Right?
My brother has made me, through his business, the shirt that Peter's got on right now. I got like 3 of those. One like that, the head and the Sparty head, and then it says Sparty head and soccer underneath it. And I can wear that shirt, and I can take Mary Catherine down to East Lansing, and I'll be treated like royalty.
There you go.
Yeah. Guys, have a great night. Chuck, I'll see you in the morning. Peter, have a great weekend. Everybody, hey, listen, be good to each other. Be good. Help somebody if they need a little bit of help. Let's kind of make tomorrow. Let's make this world a better place for somebody that needs some help. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. And you don't know how much I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Have a good night. Chuck, you see you in the morning. Good night.
Points keep growing.